Hello.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, Tanvi.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay. I'm glad it's Friday. And it's actually a spring day in Pittsburgh for a change. Hey, Natalie.
I know the sun is amazing.
Yeah, it's actually out and shining. It's nice.
It looks like it's gonna rain here, so good for you guys.
Well, it's been pretty dreary all week, so I'm happy for the sunshine going into the weekend.
I know.
Mhm. So as usual, we get started. I don't usually start until around 12:35. Give people time to come on. And I did get the notification out kind of late this week, but I recorded so folks won't miss a thing.
Do you send notifications for these, Erin? If so, I'm not getting them.
Ooh, I'll make sure that you're on them.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've just like added it to my calendar in
Good.
January.
Yeah, cool. I'll
That'd be
make
great.
sure I get you on the mailing list.
Aaron, while we're waiting for people, I realize I've been neglecting to kind of like take user stories down since the beginning of the year. So if these recordings are available, do you want me to go back and do that so that we can then do product design with them? Like I can take care of that.
Yeah, let's talk about that following up next week.
Sounds good.
Maybe some of them, but maybe some of them you wouldn't need to do that with.
Okay. Cool.
Because I kind of changed the format to these just slightly this year. So maybe some of them were just demos and some of them were, yeah, we'll figure
Right.
it out.
Okay. Sounds cool. Awesome.
Hi, Darren.
Hello.
So welcome everyone. We usually get started about 12:35 my time, which is in about 3 minutes. So just hang on. We'll get started.
And Erin, I don't think I'm able to share my screen right now. So if you can even change those settings, that would be super helpful.
Thanks for that reminder, Tanvi, and you should be able to share now.
Awesome. Thank you.
So for those who just joined, and it might be new to this meeting, I usually get started at about 3 more minutes. So just hang tight. Okay, well, it is 12:35 my time. So we'll get started. Welcome everybody to the Torus Community Meeting for May. I'm Erin Swinski, Product Manager and Learning Engineer Manager at the Open Learning Initiative and the Simon Initiative at Carnegie Mellon University. Today, I'm joined by a few folks that can help in the demo, or in the demo that we're going to be giving of some new analytics sketches and designs. And I'll just turn this over to Tanvi, and Tanvi, I'll let you introduce yourself. And I assume Christine will also be helping out. So thanks, Tanvi and Christine, for coming and for sharing this information. And I'll let you, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanvi, and I'm a learning engineer here at OLI. I've also been working on some of the designs and development of the analytics prototypes for Torus, and I've been working with Darren, Christine, and actually the rest of the Gates team as well on the designs. So we'll be showcasing some of the initial prototypes that we've been working on for the version 24 release. As many of you might already have used our old platform and have been using the analytics within the old platform of tracking student mastery, student performance for students. We have been working on adding a few more features or metrics within the platform, and want your feedback for that. Again, these are all initial prototypes, and we'll hugely benefit from any kind of feedback that you all have about these designs. And with that, I'll start sharing my screen. Please feel free to interrupt me at any point of the demo if you all have any questions or comments. But I'll also be pausing in between to ask questions. And I'll be stopping my video just because my share screen gets wonky if I am sharing my screen and sharing my video as well. So what you see over here are the initial designs, and there are a couple of different variations of these designs that we'll be showing today. This first view is when the instructor logs into the course and sees an overview page. Over here, they are shown some overview information about the section. And then they're also given some reminders or recommended actions that the instructor might need to take. So you can see these top priority action view with a lot of action cards that the instructor is shown and what kind of actions they might want to take. For example, grading the assignments, and then even reviewing some of the materials that might be upcoming for their classes, so on and so forth.
Tanvi, I hate to interrupt, but is it possible to make this a little bit bigger? It's kind of hard to see in the window.
Let me try. It's actually, yeah, I'll have to scroll around, but I can show like this.
There we go.
Yeah, so over here, you all can see the top priority actions that instructors might need to take for the class. There is also an option to hide this view if instructors prefer that. And then over here, we see a scatter plot and a matrix kind of view where we are tracking student mastery versus student engagement. And each of these dots represents a student within the section and how they are performing. So over here, we have 4 groups, basically, students who are low on mastery and low on engagement. And the instructor might want to take a couple of actions based on their class and what they think might be appropriate, like sending reminder emails or approaching this in class, asking them to complete some of the materials in class because they are low in engagement. And so getting them to first go through the materials itself. Then there are this other group where students are high in engagement and low in mastery. So even though students are going through the materials, they are still low in mastery. And so maybe the instructor might want to take alternate actions like assigning additional practice materials or setting up study groups. And then there are students who are low in engagement but still high in mastery. The instructor might just want to track this group and see what kind of prior knowledge this group has that day, or what other materials the students are referring to, that they are doing well even without going through all the materials within the course. And then there's this group which is high engagement, high mastery, students who have gone through all the materials and are also doing well within the course. Then the instructor is also able to see a list of topics that the students are struggling with for that particular week. And then this is the list of learning objectives and all the masteries, the student mastery, overall student mastery for the learning objectives given for that particular week. Apart from this, we also plan to have a table on the right-hand side with topics that the students are doing well in for that week. And so again, similar list of learning objectives where the students are doing well in for that particular week. And then over here, we plan to have some distribution and activities that students are struggling with this for that week. And these are like bar charts or visualizations of activities that the students struggled with for that week and how many percentage of students got those activities correct, what might be the answer distribution, so on and so forth. So we are still working on those. So this is the overall view of the overview screen that we have been working on.
Can I just ask how the learning objective percentages are tabulated? Is it that a composite of different activities, so it could be like 5 total activities, but that different questions are tagged in different activities to composite some sort of learning objective 1 through 5?
Yeah, so basically we are tagging the activities with either the learning objectives or the sub-learning objectives. And so based on what we are tagging them with, it's like an average of how for all the activities the students are performing. Right now, it's a very straightforward calculation of whether they have gotten it correct or incorrect in their first attempt.
Thank you.
Mm. And then moving on to the reports tab. Over here, instructors are able to view many more sub-tabs, and they are able to even download these sub-tabs in different formats. So this first sub-tab is the content sub-tab, which usually gives an overview of all the modules and what might be the overall student completion rate for each module, overall student mastery for each module, and the overall student engagement for each module. Now, each of these metrics, the I icon over here gives information to the instructor on how these metrics are calculated. And so for each of these.
Sorry, Chandvi, we need that zoom in again. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Just a minute. Yeah. And so over here in the modules tab, we are able to see the student completion, for overall student completion for each module, the overall student mastery for each module, and the overall student engagement for each module. And then each of these metrics, I'll just talk a little bit about how they are calculated right now. And we would love to get your input on this as well. So the student completion right now is nothing but if there are activities within a page, then the percentage of activities that each student has completed within that page. And student mastery is again nothing but like what I spoke about earlier, whether the student is getting the activity correct or incorrect in their first attempt for each of these questions. And then student engagement is a calculation that we are still working on right now. We are thinking about it in terms of an overall metrics, not only taking completion into account, but also taking other factors like participation within discussion activities or the number of hints that the student might have asked, etc., into account. And we have categorized the student mastery and student engagement into like low, medium, high, and not enough data. But then the completion is a percentage that we are currently showing within the interfaces. On clicking on these modules, each of these modules, the instructor is taken to another subtab where they are shown a list of the students for that who have participated in completion of that module, and what their completion rate is and what their mastery rate is for each of those modules. These arrows here are nothing but sortable actions that the instructor can click on to view this table, either like based on these metrics on ascending order or descending order. And then there is this the next subtab, which is the student subtab, which shows the list of students, the time that they have last interacted with the system, the overall course progress, how much they have completed, their overall course mastery, and their overall course engagement. On clicking on each of these student names, the instructor is guided to an individual student view where they are shown how an overall view of the student. And I'll just try to zoom out and show you this overall view first. So over here, you can see that this first table over here shows the basic information about the student, their major and their background information. And then we have a set of tables over here. And again, I'll dive a little deeper into these tables in a minute. And then we have these notes section where the instructor can add any notes about that particular student here. And then diving into the tables for each of this individual student view, we have again the learning objectives tab, which shows the learning objective, the sub-learning objective, the student performance for that particular learning objective, and the sub-learning objective that is indicated with the student mastery, and the student engagement for that particular learning objective. And then we also have the quiz course tabs, which shows for each individual quiz, the scores for the student and the number of attempts that the students might have taken. On clicking on these scores, we are able to view the attempt history and what answers the students might have clicked on for each of the questions within that quiz. Going back to this view, overall section view, where we are able to see the whole list of students, there is the next subtab, which is the learning objectives subtab. And this one again has a similar format to the learning objectives that you saw in the individual student view tab, where we have the learning objective, the sub-learning objective, the mastery of the objective, the mastery of the sub-learning objective, and the engagement, overall engagement for that objective. And in this view, we are also able to filter these learning objectives based on the module. So if we want to view the learning objectives for a particular module, we can sort it through this filter. There is also the search button in each of these tables that you're able to see to search for a particular learning objective, student, so on and so forth. And then all these are downloadable as CSV. On clicking on each of these objectives, you're also taken to a list of the activities related to each of the objectives and the metric, the overall analytics related to those objectives, like the number of to those activities, like the number of attempts, relative difficulty, eventually correct and first try correct data for each of the activities related, which are tagged to that objective. And then we have the quiz scores tab, which shows the overall quiz scores for that particular class. I see that Gautam has a hand up.
Yeah, if you can go back to the previous page where you saw a list of multiple choice.
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, here.
Yeah, I think this is the feedback I also give for the authoring side in Torus, that just writing multiple choice, which might be a placeholder here. But in Torus right now, if we collect any data, we only see multiple choice written, but that is not clickable, or it does not have any unique ID unless we go and rename that in Torus. So as a instructional designer, it's kind of burden for me to rename all the formative assessment or quiz question. If instead of multiple choice, maybe I had question stem or some kind of unique ID that is already attached with that question. So here, so I can map like which of the question on the authoring side is being shown here, or even if it's clickable and redirected to somewhere where I can see the question. Just feedback on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we are thinking of making this clickable as well. So we'll definitely try to have the data that you're talking about included somewhere in here as well.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then this quiz score view is basically like the grade book, where the instructor is able to see all the quizzes and the names of all the students, and all the student performance for those quizzes. Again, the ones which have low scores are the ones that are highlighted in red. But apart from that, the rest of them are in the same color. This view is again downloadable as a CSV if the instructor needs the grades outside of the platform. So this was one view. I have to go back. So this was one view, and I'll show you in the next view what goes in these manage and discussion activity tabs as well. So now this next flow or this view shows the reports tab as the main tab when the instructor is able to enter. Again, this is something that we were planning to have for version 24, that is the July release. We might not be able to do all of the things that are there in the overview page over here for the July release, but that is in plan for, I think, the October release. And so for the July release, we were planning to have the reports view as the main page. And then have, again, these recommended actions for instructors over here as a carousel, but also something that they can hide if they need to. These are all similar subtabs that you all have seen in the previous flow with the content, the students, the learning objectives, and the quiz scores. What we also have here is the manage tab, where all the other functionalities are added for the instructor to either preview the course as an instructor, entering the course as a student, customizing the curriculum, gating and scheduling, and all the other tools that are actually there in the manage course page right now. Then we also have the discussion activity tab for the instructor. Over here, the instructor is able to see all the posts or comments that the students are making on posts. They also have the ability to select them and accept or reject them based on the comments. They also have the ability to filter this view by either the most recent comments or posts that have been made, or the posts that have not already been accepted. So these are the two filters that are available right now. I'm going to pause and look at the chat for a moment, and also pause for any comments you all might have. Okay, thanks, Erin. We are looking for feedback on all these metrics and how you all are calculating them right now in your classes. And then this third flow or this third view shows the overview tab, in which we have the insights, the recommended actions in different subtabs within the overview tab. So we have this scatter plot and the metrics view over here of student engagement and student mastery. We also have recommended actions in a tabular format in this view. And then we might have a couple more subtabs within the overview tab. The reports tab is very similar to what you have been seeing in the past two flows, where we have the content, the students, the learning objectives, and the quiz score subtabs. And the manage and the discussion activity is also very similar to what you're seeing in flow 2, with the discussion activity having an accept and reject for all the discussion posts and comments, and the manage having all the other links to things that the instructor can customize. So the only thing that is different in this third flow is the way we are structuring the overview with these different subtabs of insights, and then this tabular view of recommended actions, as opposed to this view where we have these action cards. And we are looking for feedback on which view would all of y'all prefer, whether it's this tabular view or whether it's this view which can be expanded and hidden. So I think with that, the demo is complete, but I'll also turn over to Darren, Erin, and Christine if they have any other questions that they might want to ask about prototypes.
Yeah, thanks, Tanvi. That was excellent. So I know I'm looking for, I can facilitate, asking pointed questions about some of these things. But I believe I can imagine that Christine has some questions to help, some direct questions for folks to help collect some feedback. So Christine, if you do, feel free to jump in.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. So since Tanvi was able to show the flows for you guys, I guess I just wanted to ask for some preferences, I suppose, on some. She already asked one of the ones that I was going to ask, which was the different variations. So let's see. The one, that I would like to know as well is, do we prefer this reports page where it opens up the cards, or the overview version where it opens, it just has the tabs here? So I guess that was one of the questions. And feel free to type in the chat. You guys don't have to say out loud. And then some other ones I wanted to ask were in the first prototype, in the first flow. We had I've been playing around with essentially how these cards could look like. So we were having some feedback essentially that these cards might be a little bit just too maybe big, or there's too much text. So that's why we were playing around with that table formatting. And so I also decided, hold on one second. So there was this, I made the cards a bit smaller to try to make them look a little bit less intrusive, but still, I don't know if this is a fan favorite necessarily. So yeah, so that was why we went ahead and played around with this version. And we were getting mixed feedback about this as well. I also made a version with the subtext in there as well. So that way they could just switch over to see, oops, wrong thing. Yeah, so they could switch over to that. Oops, okay, that's not right. Okay, sorry. I must have accidentally connected the wrong thing. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Erin.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask, so it's a matter of, do they like the card version, or where it's kind of right there and ready
At the top.
Yeah, or would they want to possibly just go to that tab when they think they need some nudges or some recommended actions as the system sees it? So I guess that's the first question. What are people's preferences in terms of those recommended actions? And those recommended actions, I assume, are kind of taking into account the metrics that have been collected, and saying, okay, maybe this group of students need attention, or this particular student needs attention, or it's time to grade this assignment, or I think those are some of the examples of recommended actions. And so do folks feel that that's helpful? We have gotten mixed feedback on that.
Yeah. But yeah, so those are the two versions that I made. Yeah, feel free to.
Yeah, I would just keep that up as we start to dig in and have questions. So folks, what are initial reactions? Anybody have strong reactions to the designs? Anything you would like to see more of or to talk through?
Seeing some stuff in the chat.
So Gautam, something more like Canvas does. So Canvas does it on, puts those things on like a sidebar, I assume.
Yeah, if you click on a course, you can see in Canvas that there is right side there are 28 students who need to be graded for this assignment. There are 17 students who need to be graded for this assignment. So there is like a list of 5 to 6 to-dos as an instructor, you can see. And I think I really prefer that because it kind of helps me prioritize which task I want to tackle next. The cards and entire page seems to be too much.
So if you look at the other version of the cards, which is just a table, I think that's more in alignment with what you're thinking, but you would want it on the left side, is what you're saying.
No, I was saying like I would not want to go to a separate page every time just to see what are the recommended action.
Okay.
If instead of cards in the overview page, there was I can show you how the to-do list looks like if it is helpful.
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
So like this is one of the course, and as an instructor, these are the tasks I need to do.
Ah, I see.
So it does not information overload, but it does help me like just keep it in mind while I'm opening the course in homepage that okay, these are the things I need to do, but maybe like keep it in back of mind, but it's not out of my sight. Like,
Right. It's like right in your view, but you can easily ignore it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. And then go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was just gonna say we were playing with that idea, so that's not the first time we're hearing of that idea. So that's good to know.
Yeah, I was just going to switch to Caitlin's comment. Caitlin, yeah, we did meet with Ken last week, and he says he tends to look at this data like as he's on his way to class on his mobile phone. How many folks here think that that's something that that's like a practice they perform? Anyone using mobile, I guess, to view data?
I never view it on mobile. It's just
Okay.
too small for me, but I know a lot of folks do. So.
Yeah. That's helpful. Thanks.
That's not really what my comment was about. It was
Oh.
more about, he said there was like a deal breaker for him that if we don't include it, he doesn't want to use Torus. What was that? I forgot.
yeah, I have it. I can share it with everyone. These were the two screens which he said was a deal breaker for him if he is going to use it. One was about where did the student make most mistakes, so he can discuss it in the class as he walk in. And for a particular question, what were the student responses? So if a lot of student responses something incorrectly, he can discuss that kind of thing. Why the class as a whole might have that misconception.
Yeah, and by the way, we are working on these types of deep dive analytics. We just don't have the mock-ups yet for them. We're starting kind of broad and then digging in. There's it's like an onion. There's lots of layers to peel. And we wanted to give folks like the most the summary information and then dig in. And that will be one of the views we eventually have.
So Erin and Tombi, this was very helpful. I think that I similarly would want to be able to leverage the information to know which quiz questions were the most problematic. So I liked the suggestion that someone gave earlier in the presentation, as opposed to having a question labeled as multiple choice, to have it labeled as, quiz 57, item 5, to know which questions were the most problematic. The other thing that I think would be a very kind of innovative feature that might be nice is it's really helpful when people are actually making exams from existing assessments and quizzes to be able to choose items for transfer based upon the set of learning objectives that they want to track and follow. So I was just wondering, I'm wondering if that could be something where if I was making an exam, I would be able to use that learning objective screen and be able to say, okay, of these learning objectives, I want to make sure I make transfer questions for the following quiz questions. So I was wondering if you could visit that learning objective and quiz question screen to kind of see how I would utilize that. I don't know if my question makes sense.
I think it does. It's just we might want to, ask some clarifying questions to tease that apart. I think what I heard is a use case, something you'd want to be able to do is to dive in, at a glance, look at the learning objectives, see where folks are maybe struggling still with learning objectives, then be able to dig into the questions associated with that learning objective, and then actually select questions to create a new quiz for students with the questions that they're struggling with. Is that kind of what I was hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be one thing to do, would be to make a new quiz for people to review with the questions from each learning objective that they're struggling with. The other, use case that I think is really helpful, I've seen people that basically make exams using existing questions that they then make transfer questions for, but they like to make sure they have an equal representation in their learning objectives when they make those exams. So that's one of the things that's really awesome about the way that this Torus system is set up, because it actually makes it easier for someone to make those decisions. So that's what I was curious about looking at this learning objective screen. I think I could probably do that given the way the screen is, because I can choose which questions to choose. Thank you.
That's super cool, because we really want to encourage, evidence-based practices by instructors. And so you just gave a really interesting use case where we would be encouraging instructors in a way to review the data and to use that data in a constructive way to help students toward more mastery. That's exactly the kind of behaviors I think we want to be able to encourage from our instructors. So that's an interesting suggestion. Thanks, Lauren. And by the way, we are talking all the time about this idea of a homework system, meaning being able to either use the practice and the quizzes and the questions that are in a course in different ways, meaning, build like a homework, assignment from, knowing the data from the how students are doing in the inline pages. And we are collecting kind of any kind of feedback or ideas for how we would do that, for sure. It's something. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So Tanvi, what I mean by transfer questions is, so in science of teaching and learning research, I do that all the time. And basically what we'll do is we'll have homework activity questions, and we'll make sure that the exam questions ask the same type of question that is in the activity, but in a different way. And if it's a question that basically all you need is the information that you retrieved or elaborated on in the original activity, that's considered near transfer. Whereas if you use that information in a new or novel way, it's considered far transfer questions. So I guess I'm sort of wondering, also based upon what you just said, Erin, it would be really helpful if, let's say I was building that new homework activity as you were describing. What if there was a way for me to click and select several of these learning objectives, like those low ones? I pull those, and then I could export them into a new, into a new screen. Am I able to just choose ones that I want to look at? Is there a way to kind of facilitate me building that new assignment that you were describing, Erin?
Interesting. Not yet, but that was a really cool idea. Yeah, we're like I said, I'm always looking for ideas for how we can help instructors generate more questions against the learning objectives to either, to assign for homework, especially for folks who have already worked through the practice that exists and still need more, right? But then also being able to tie all that data to the same set of objectives and skills is really cool too. Interesting. So far, does it look like we have, the basic analytics that would be needed to manage a course today, knowing that we're still going to we're still drilling in, but say this is all the analytics we can get out for fall. Is that helpful for folks? Is that good enough? Thanks, Natalie. That's helpful. I know that Ken wants the question drill down, be able to see kind of the item by item responses and the distractor responses, all of that. And again, we are working on that because that's a very powerful way to look at the data for sure. Okay, thanks, Lauren. And that's a good caveat, right? Like, it's helpful as long as you know what you're looking at. I feel like I could have a whole like session just on naming conventions, and automatic naming ideas. We have some already that we're kicking around, of course. Got them, shared some of those, like being able to see the beginning of the question stem, actually being able to click on that and take you directly to that question. If you have any others, I'm open to them. Is there any other systems that you can think or compare to, like Canvas, like Autumn was doing, where you have things that you really like and you would like to see implemented in our system? Yeah, please, Natalie.
This is more for written responses
Mhm.
and wouldn't necessarily be related to that overview page. It's not something you can do in Canvas, which I always struggle with, but so I require my students to submit via Google Docs so I can give them comments in line, because otherwise you're just writing in the comment box and you can't even bold or italicize or anything. So with D2L Brightspace, which was a LMS I previously worked with, you could give inline comments. Also with I think it's SuperSite, MindTap by Vista Higher Learning, and a couple of the Pearson, maybe a couple of the big textbook publishers for language learning, where on their websites you could give inline feedback, which is really helpful if a student just missed an accent or you just wanted to say like, hey, this is a conjugation thing, but I anticipate would be useful for other subjects too when you're having the students write something and submit. So this would be more related to when you're actually grading and giving feedback, that's something I would like.
Okay, that's super helpful. Nobody's mentioned anything like that before. And we've been working on, and we'll be working on kind of like what we're calling an annotations system. So the first part of that implementation was to even just get discussion boards into the course. The next is to really look at how we could use, but we were looking at it from the student perspective, right? Letting students highlight things and ask questions and use that discussion and annotating together. But I never thought about it, and I don't think we've ever heard anyone ask on the instructor side of things for you to be able to go in and highlight and say, especially in open responses, like really quickly.
It saves so much time if you have, right now I have just a few students at a time, but if you have 100 students, it saves an hour by being able to inline feedbacks.
Interesting. Okay, we'll probably follow up on some more ideas about that with you for sure, because that's the first I've heard that. That's cool. While we're thinking of pie in the sky ideas, anybody have any others?
So if I also wanted to ask a question to the group about student engagement, and So if no one has any ideas, I'll start with those questions.
Yeah, please. I think we do need some feedback on that. So
Awesome. So I wanted to know in what ways are you all currently understanding student engagement, or in what ways are you all tracking student engagement within your classes? And are you really using that as a measure in any way to for grading or in any other way within your classes?
I can tell you that there's like a presentation each semester by our sister group that describes how Canvas uses, how you can view the analytics in Canvas. And because a lot of the analytics have to do with page views as opposed to completion, you know, there's activity completion, but if you look at page views, that there's a lot of pressure not to use that as a reason for grading. So I think, at least at our university, people are basically cautioned not to do that. So if you, I mean, I think that people are always looking for innovative ways to view engagement. You know, with Canvas, I just don't think that we're there yet for grading. So your ideas would be welcome and appreciated.
Yeah, right now, like as you saw in the design, we have like these two metrics, which is student completion and student engagement. But what we're really thinking is that if engagement is something that instructors are really not counting towards anything, then it might be redundant and we might just use student completion as a metric and not have engagement.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it
really
might-
sure what.
I was just going to say, it might help to know what we're talking about and what the differences are. So engagement, how we're calculating that, and I'm not going to give you the exact calculation, but we're taking into account page views, activity, use, so the amount of practice that students touch, and how many discussion posts they either submit or answer. So we're trying to calculate engagement by the total engagement with the system and all the different pieces and parts of it. However, when we start to get into the details of discussing that, you know, different people have different ideas of how much those things are weighted and if they even need to be included. And if it really gives you anything different from straight completion. So how about, you know, starting there? Is that something that is interesting to you all to know? Or would you rather just know what are people completing and just be able to like have your own idea of engagement based on those metrics? Thanks, Gautam. That's really helpful. Yeah, so do you kind of like eyeball it, like eyeball the work that's being done by a particular student and like, okay, I'll give them the
Yeah, as long as it looks like they made an effort to engage in the discussion, even if they did not do all the required discussion, I just give them a full grade. And for formative, I just take a glance. I never check if they are actually doing like every single one of them. But I think having some exact statistic on those kind of thing might be helpful.
Okay, that was exactly going to be my question. Would you rather determine that for yourself by looking at the raw, you know, data for each of those things, or would it be helpful if we kind of did a calculation for you that you could just use? And it sounds like you want the latter.
Yeah, I would prefer the maybe overall completion, because I still think either way, even if I see the raw data, I'll still eyeball it. And even if I see the overall, I'll take it with skepticism and still try to grade them generously, because I don't want to like do anything wrong. It's fine to always go over. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wonder even if we're calculating the engagement for you, if that would be a more consistent measure then, you know what I mean, across even students, and it'd be more fair. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. Because then there's something you could point to instead of being like, well, I kind of fuzzily did this and I can't really justify it how I did it differently from student to student. But I don't know if that even matters. Like, I'm sure students don't challenge engagement. They take whatever participation score you give them. Most they're going to challenge are like exam scores, right?
Yeah, they've never challenged any participation score, and it's mostly because I only cut any grade when I see that they're not engaging and they just stopped it. But I think having something to refer to might be helpful.
Okay.
Like I can see overall statistic being useful, but I think it will depend on if it's exactly how I want it to be. If it's not how I want it to be, I'll just like default to taking it with a glance and like making up on my own mind on how to grade students.
Yeah, I wonder if we even release it with how we calculate it, collect really detailed feedback on how folks are using that or not, and then maybe even downstream be able to put in some functionality where instructors could even adjust those calculations for themselves.
I would definitely want to adjust, because sometimes it happens that students do not post anything on the discussion forum, but they exchange a lot of emails with me. So I count that as participation grade instead. And Ken and Michael, like everyone is fine with it in CMU. So it obviously depends on the interactions going outside the platform. So an ability to adjust would be definitely a priority.
Oh, that's so helpful. Thank you.
So I just wanted to point out that we do have a separate kind of thread pushing forward on exploring how to incorporate participation specifically into the system as a metric, right, that we can track and even end up rolling back and showing up and appearing in the grade book. And so this engagement metric isn't necessarily that. It's not necessarily the same thing. I think what originally motivated us with this idea of engagement was this metric that instructors could look at to see which students are actually doing things, yet not getting good results, right? So that then the instructors could reach out and check on that group of students. So I think, Brett, there's some overlap there with what I think we're considering participation to be. But I think we have to be careful to keep maybe that original goal, what we had in mind, separate from, well, I do want to give a grade, right, for how often the students is doing X, Y, and Z in the course. Maybe they end up being the same thing, but originally we were thinking them as two separate kind of goals in mind.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks for that clarification.
Just to follow up on that, I completely agree about defining the engagement that way. Maybe part of my concern was when I saw that graph, there was an option to send a reminder email, and it looked like it will go to all the student in the entire quadrant. But sometimes if I'm contacting students who are not keeping up with the course, I mostly write reminder emails to someone who I have not heard anything from. If someone already wrote me and I'm on conversation about like this might be the reason they're lacking behind, so I don't want to penalize them for lack of engagement in the course. I'll just communicate that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you for commenting on that. That's really helpful because I don't think anybody's given us feedback like that on that. I think that was new to me anyway, seeing that button there. I know that we wanted to do suggested actions, but I can imagine based on your comment, got them to like click on that, but then still be able to just exclude students in that quadrant from the email.
Yeah, there were actually some early designs produced for that kind of bulk email that we didn't show here, but Wadham, it actually worked the way that I think you were hoping that it would work, that once the instructor clicked that button to send that email, they would actually first see this view that had, right, the list of all students that the email would be getting sent to. They'd have then the ability to customize the message in the email. And most importantly, the ability to remove some of those students from that email. so that you did have that control over customizing who gets the email and what it actually says.
Fantastic. Thanks, Darren.
If
Okay.
we're gonna, sorry, Aaron, I did want to
Please.
say, like, this isn't so much, it's not engagement for the level of, contacting the students or providing grades, but we do want to know the amount of time each student is spending on each quiz. So that would be helpful. I mean, if you're doing timing metrics anyway, because you're also looking at page views and clocking in and out, we would like the data to be available for, the amount of time each student spends on each quiz. That helps us see if students are actually taking a quiz seriously or not, or just like clicking through really fast.
So that is being tracked at the moment and is visible already as a feature for instructors. So for graded pages where there is a distinct end to the attempt where the student submits that entire page attempt, the system will show to the instructor, how many minutes the student did or did not spend working on that quiz.
Thank you. That's ideal.
Perfect. So we're over time by a minute. I really thank you all. Thank you, Tanvi and Christine, for sharing those designs. Thanks for all the feedback that we've collected from you all today. Don't hesitate to keep submitting feedback. If you think about it after, send me an email or visit the Torus pages. There's places there you can click to get right to submitting a ticket or an issue. There's also a form where you can send suggestions for features. So definitely make use of those. We're hoping at the next meeting in June to maybe showcase some of the advanced authoring capabilities. So stay tuned for that. I hope everybody has a great Cinco de Mayo and great weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.